what I'm talking about tonight is the installation of pot lights in your kitchen, and this applies equally to the half scale, sorry, the 12 scale and the quarter scale. Um, so just a little history. Pot lights are a relatively modern invention. They were first used in Chicago in the late 40s and early 50s. So if you've got a Victorian house, pot lights are probably not for you. Just some basic tips on using uh, lights in general. The commonest lighting source that's used in North America is Evan Design Lighting. They use 3 volt. They sell lights for dollhouses and for the train people. They actually started more with the train club, but the dollhouse people discovered them. And so they are the single most common uh, lighting company that you will find discussed on dollhouse sites. If you buy kits from um, uh, various people who sell lit quarter scale houses, they almost always come from Evan Design. Now, the other suppliers around, I wanted to mention Honey because she's from our own club. She runs a business called Live a Little Miniatures. She sells completed lighting structures, lots of beautiful chandeliers all over the world. She sells at Chicago and Kensington, and now she's included quarter scale lighting structures on her site. I wanted to mention this other guy here. This is a weird name, but this is him, CR2S. On his site, there are all these links, and they are many articles about lighting, everything you wanted to know about lighting. Now, I took a class from him, a day-long class from him in April, and he was fantastic. And he has convinced me of the appropriate way to approach lighting a dollhouse. And he agrees with Tim Kraft, who's the other person I've taken classes from. I took classes from the guy who runs the dollhouse company in Toronto, but they tend to favor, of course, the products that they sell. So, just some basic tips on lighting before you approach it. You cannot put a high volt battery, a 12 volt battery on a 3 volt light. It will burn it out. Pretty simple. Um, the blinking or flickering feature on a light bulb is usually built into the battery. And so all the lights on that battery will blink or flicker. So, for instance, you can't hook your fireplace into the ordinary lights because then they'll all flicker. We're going to be using LED lights in this project, and they burn 10,000 hours, which is really quite amazing. And one tip I want to emphasize is to leave the fairy lights on while you're installing them, and I'll cover that. That's to remind me to cover that when we get to that part. So basically, in a lighting electrical setup, you need a power source, you need a battery and a battery holder, or you need a power source, which can be a battery and a battery holder. We are using a very simple product in this kit. We are using a coin cell battery. It is replaceable, and the coin cell comes with the battery case. So it's all in one feature. And we are using the LED lights, which give off no heat. So basically, this kit boiled down to 2 components, the lights and the energy source. Um, so the kit consisted of a string of fairy lights. I offered 2 colors. Cool white is considered more of a modern white, and warm white more of an old-fashioned white color. I included grommets in the scale of your choice, and they were between 1/12 or 1/48. I think the 1/48 would look okay in a 1/24 scale house as well. But when I tried to get smaller with the 1/48, they just were too tiny to fit a bulb in. And so the advantage of using these fairy lights for us is that it's much cheaper than putting several lights, individual lights, into a room box. So for instance, if you were trying to put um, 8 bulbs into a room box, 8 separate bulbs from Evans Lighting, you would pay about $64. So we got a good deal. Now, what did you need? You needed masking. You'll need masking tape. I like to cut my masking tape with scissors, but you can tear it if you like. I used a ruler. I used a 6-inch ruler and a 12-inch ruler. A glue gun is optional, but it is recommended. And when I get to that, to the installation of the lights, I'll talk about that more. Um, you may want to use an X-Acto knife. I'll get to that later. And for a wood box, if you really want to carve a groove into the box for your wires, um, you would probably want to use a wood gouge. They sell them on Amazon and at Lee Valley. So I wanted to talk about one of the first thing first is when approaching your wiring setup, you want to look at where you place your battery. Now, I'm assuming that most of you are doing a kitchen room box, and that's why you're going with fairy lights. Um, and you want to have access to the battery so you can turn the lights on. And also, your fairy lights will run out in one continuous string from your battery case. And so you want it easily accessible. So for a room box, I would recommend either the back of the box, although you use up more of your fairy light string that way, or the top of your box. And the back is handy because you can hide it against the wall. The top is nice because it uses up less of your string of lights, and we'll talk about that when I show you the lights. With fairy lights, so the problem with fairy lights is they use up part of the fairy light string, getting from the battery to the light sockets. But your string holds something like 30 lights, and you're only going to use 16 for 8 pot lights, so you should be fine. So the important thing to do before diving right in and installing your lights is to plan where you put your pot light placement. So I just looked around my kitchen and saw where they were and looked up some data on the web. And for half scale lights, 2 to 4 inches apart works fine. That's because they are typically 3 to 4 feet apart on your ceiling. And then, as well as being distance on your ceiling, you also want them away from your wall or away from your cabinet. So if the leading edge of your cabinet is 2 feet out from the wall, you're going to put your string of pot lights 3.5 inches out from the wall or 1.5 inches from the cabinet. I have some pictures. For quarter scale, it's of course smaller distances, 3/8 of an inch apart and 3/8 of an inch from the wall, from the leading edge of the cabinet. So when you plan your pot lights, you want to space them evenly. If you're putting them in a row in front of your cabinets, you would want to start in the center and move out from there, and plan how many you could put in there, and then create the distance between them accordingly to make them look good, but also to give sufficient light. One over the sink in the middle of the ceiling also looks good. And if you have an island in your kitchen, 2 or 3 over the island would look good as well. And just center them over the island. So you have to plan carefully because you want the lights to run all in one continuous string. And you cannot separate them or cut them or break them because the following lights will have no power source. So this is an example of 3 pot lights. There's one here's a bit in the dark, but there's 3 pot lights. They're all in a row. They're about 3 feet apart, and they're a foot and a half out from the edge of those cabinets. Okay, so that's how they're put. This is an example of a an island in the kitchen. The island's got a bit of a shape to it. It's not just a rectangle. So the pot light's kind of curved as well. Um, so that was how those were done. And this is a pot light that's over a kitchen window. And it's just in the ceiling. It's not too far out. Maybe 6 inches, 6 to 8 inches out from the window. And it gives you light over your sink, particularly in dark winters in Alberta. So I'm going to tell you that the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to untwist your lighting string. Now, if anybody has looked at their lighting string, it looks like a little, almost looks like a little hay bale. It's a little twisted round, circular of many, many layers of wire. And unfortunately, they are not twisted evenly. And you are going to have to untwist those and probably get a few knots out. And it's going to take you some time and it's going to be a bit frustrating. But that's what happens when you're trying to save money. Um, Now, oftentimes people don't really care if these lights are stretched out in a single string because they bundle them into a mass and they stick them in a jar or a vase or something like that. But that's not what we're going to do. So I started drawing my wiring diagram. And so I drew the kitchen. I drew on top of the ceiling. And but I know that the cabinets are under here. My dollhouse cabinets in my 1/12 scale room are 3 inches wide. So I marked a line where the cabinets are, and then I marked a 1.5 inches out, and that's where I'm going to put, that's the line on which I'm going to put my pot lights. Now I happen to have another wall of cabinets over here. So I'm going to put some pot lights in this corner as well. And I'll talk about that in a moment. So I actually, for this fairly large room box, ended up with 4 lights going across. And I, as well, in this corner, coming from here out to there, I'm going to put another pot light just to illuminate that area. It happens to be that there's some kitchen appliance there, and I just want a bit of light on that. So first I drew where my cabinets were, then I drew where my row should be, and then I measured out the row and equidistanced the pot lights. I started with this one here, which is in the exact middle of that stretch, and then I put the rest on the sides. And they're quite evenly spaced. Okay, so after I'm going to do that, after I do this, then I'm going to put my wires there. Okay. Now, drawing your wiring diagram. So as I said, first I drew where my cabinets were. Then I drew a 1.5 foot out or 1.5 inches out where I want my pot lights to be. And then now I'm going to draw my wires from pot light to pot light. And they will run from the battery pack to the closest pot light and then from there to each pot light. And so you'll want to go, oh, Lisa, oh, Lil's here. Just a sec, I'm going to let Lil in. Okay, so you're going to run from the battery pack to the closest light, and but ideally one that from there you can spread out one way.
That's just feeling down the spot.
Somebody's talking. Can you mute yourself, please? So you're going to run from there to the rest of the pot lights. So ideally, you're going to place your battery somewhere where it's close to the first pot light in the row or the first pot light in your display. So in my sample, I put the battery on top of the room box. And then I run the string from the fixed position of the battery to the first hole, and then I keep going. So here's my diagram again. And this time I'm pointing out the wiring lines. I'm going to run from, actually I decided I'm going to run from that one to that one, and down to there, and down to there, and down to there, and then over there. And I actually started with this one over here. because I wanted to go in one direction. I didn't want to have to double back. So it's very important that when you finish don't trim any excess lights off till the very, very end. So here we have now, I've completed my wiring. Actually, I've only shown you the wiring to one pot light. And you can see this is the battery pack here, taped to the top of the ceiling. This is the top of the room box. This is the wiring going to the first pot light, and from there it will carry on and go pot light back to this pot light, this one, and down, and end up on that one. So, when Liz West gave us her talk on fairy lights, she carved a small crack into the uh, what she was using and buried the fairy light wires a little bit into that crack. I don't think it's worth the risk. If you try to cut a diagram into the outside of the top of the ceiling, particularly if you're using foam core, there's a risk you will perforate your ceiling, and you cannot fix that. It is done. Your ceiling is ruined. So I'm going to show you the fairy lights at the end, but the fairy light wires are extremely fine, and I don't think the cutting into the foam core particularly would make much difference, and it would certainly run a risk. Um, so, so you're going to smooth the wires over the top and tape them down slowly as you go from pot light to pot light. Now, option two for doing the channels is exactly what I don't recommend, which is putting in a narrow channel. Now, if you're doing wood and you really want a channel in your wood, you could use a wood gouge, a small one, a 4 to 6 millimeter wood gouge for that. And you can buy those at Lee Valley or Amazon. But I don't really think it's necessary. I think the simplest solution is to cover the top of your room box with cardstock when you're done. And there you've got a nice clean top, and of course the ceiling is going to look beautiful. So once you've put your um, wiring diagram, you're going to want to insert your holes. And I did this one at a time. I ran the wires and I put in a hole, ran the wires, that was my plan, and put in a hole. And so you should know that your grommets are 1/4 of an inch for the 12-inch project and an eighth of an inch for the quarter scale. And that comes out to 3 inches, but it just looked good. I got some bigger and I got some smaller. The smaller ones, the 1/16, simply can't be used for quarter scale. They're too small to fit a light bulb in. And I thought the bigger ones were just too big. I wanted something that was going to hide our light bulbs a little bit. I didn't want the bulbs glaring and in your face. And so with the smaller grommet, you get a smaller canister for the light bulb, and it looks neater, I think. I do recommend that you try some practice holes for your grommets in some scrap material before you actually do it on your room box. And what I did, I took my grommet, I cut a circle around it, and I cut that out with a X-Acto knife. And I'll show you my grommet. It looks pretty good. So when you're happy with your test, you can go around and cut the right size holes for your grommets into your ceiling. I cut in from the top, but then I smoothed out the bottom before I inserted my grommet. I'm going to show you this to you at the end. It's easier to show than show a picture. There are two pieces to each grommet. The largest is the one that you put inside the ceiling. The small one, I put those in your bags as well. You may have some other use for them, but I thought perhaps they could be used to cover up the top of the grommet hole, but in fact, the tape does that quite well, so you don't really need those. And test fit your first grommet first before you move on. And you're going to want to put your grommet in from the bottom, the undersurface of the ceiling. And that way the smooth edge of the grommet will cover the edge of the hole. And I also smoothed out the edge of my hole a little bit before I put my grommet in. And finally, I find it, no matter how careful you are, it may be a little difficult to get that grommet in perfectly snug. And I would suggest a tiny bit of glue to hold them in place. Um, that's the slower way of gluing, unless you use a glue gun. Personally, I'm just going to take it slow and hold it with my finger and just use a little bit of regular glue or tacky glue. Or, Sunny, what's your favorite glue there now for this to that? Oh, she's
Like
muted.
clear tacky
You like clear
or
tack?
the well bond.
Well Bond, yes.
Yeah.
Sunny recommends Well Bond. So, um, it is very important at this step that you make sure your lights are on. Um, First time I put one in, I thought I had two lights in the hole. And when I inserted the grommet and turned the light on, because I didn't turn it on right away, um, I thought that's not very bright. And I realized I only had one light in the hole. So it's very important to get two lights into the hole. And you do that best by having the light on. Um, Sometimes you may have some lights that are traveling with your cord from the battery pack to your first hole, and just ignore that. The fairy lights are so thin. They're only a little bit thicker than the wire that they're not going to cause a lot of problem if they're lying on the outside of your ceiling. So when you get to your first pot light, you're going to twist two of the fairy lights together and the wire, and then insert it into the grommet. So you've got the grommet in there, and you're going to pop the fairy light in there. You're going to want to twist all that wire that's around those two fairy lights together until it's twisted into a fairly firm um, string. You don't want a lot of loose wires flapping in the breeze. And so you're going to want to twist all those wires together, and you can put them in front or back, but be consistent so that all the wire is laying somewhere. Typed in front here, but I actually think that I found laying them behind was was better. So I laid the wire backwards in the channel if you've got a channel, or just on top of this outside of the ceiling if that's what you've got, and tape it down with masking tape. And all that twisting is meant to hold the lights in place. But despite that, I did think that I might use a little bit of glue, although I think the glue helped more on the grommet than it did on the light. So so I've showed you that messy side of my outside of my ceiling with all the tapes and the wires running everywhere and the battery hanging off. And this is my grommet with two little lights in it. You can see you can get a very neat appearance on the ceiling. This is just the inside of a piece of foam core, um, which is giving that shiny appearance. So you just want to pop your grommet in and then put your lights inside, and you want that grommet to stay up against the ceiling. I do recommend a bit of glue. So you carry on like that, moving from pothole to pothole. Pothole, why did I type that? Pot light to pot. Well, I guess you're moving in a hole. Inserting two twisted fairy lights together into each grommet to fill your light. Smooth the wire out behind and secure it with tape or glue. I secured it with tape, and I used the glue on the grommet and maybe a bit on the light. And so if you continue this, you should be able to get up to 8 pot lights out of your uh, grommets, and you've got more than that, enough lights on your string. So you use up about 16 lights. And so, so when you've got all 16 bulbs in place, all 8 pot lights in place, and their position is stable and they're glued and you're very happy, you can cut off the extra lights at the end. Um, I can't think of where else you might want to go. If you wanted to put them in a wall socket, you could. Um, but I haven't planned for that. But once you're done with your all the lights you've wanted to install, you can simply snip off the lights at the end with your wire snippers. I don't advise your good scissors. Now, these extra lights no longer have a power source. You've detached them from the cell battery. And if you look on Liz West's recorded Zoom session from February, she talked about using those extra lights elsewhere. She built some candles. She built some other fantastical looking lighting things. The point is, you're going to have to attach them to a power source with and that is a lot more work than what we just did. If you look at her video, she talks about sanding off the edge of the wires so that they can get contact. You have to test them to make sure they can contact the power source, etc. So if you're adventurous and you want to try these, I advise you to go back to Liz West's video and take a look. So I'm gonna end the slide share now and see all your faces again. And I do have some, can you still see my share screen? Good.
No.
All right, good. So I'm going to show you a little show and tell. These are the grommets that are in your kits. Some of you got, they're hard. Anyway, that was a 140. That was a 1/4 one. This is the 1/12 one, and it's 1/4 of an inch. And I just thought they looked the right size. It's only 3 inches, but pot lights come in different sizes. These are the pieces that are in extra in your kits. These come with grommets when you use them for what they're intended to be, which is sewing and putting things on decorations and stuff. And they're just a flat piece of metal. I have no idea what you could use them for, but you're welcome to find out. And they're in your kit. Now, the fairy lights. I do want to show you this string of fairy lights. And you can see this is what they look like when I gave them to you. Okay? You're going to have to straighten them all out. And you're going to have to straighten it all to the end. You can't just leave part of it coiled up because you're not going to use it. And you can see that you have to unwind it completely. But it didn't take too long. Maybe half an hour. Okay. And I don't know if you can see the bulb on the fairy light. I'm going to try to spotlight myself. Why don't I do that? So you see that little tiny bump there in the middle? That's the fairy light. Okay. And what you're going to do when you go to put these in the grommet is you're going to have two of them. Twist those wires together. And the next fairy light, right up beside it. And I'm going to twist them all together. And I'm going to try to get them positioned a little bit better. But in the end, I've got two bulbs twisted together, and that's what's going to go inside the grommet. Okay. And you can see why I couldn't use a really small grommet for the quarter scale because um, you have to get this inside the grommet. Finally, I was trying to be really frugal with your kits, guys. So I borrowed a set of fairy lights for my granddaughter, and I only put one grommet in my ceiling because I didn't want to use up all your grommets. And there's the back of this will be the top of the ceiling or the roof of the room box. And it's got my grommet there and all the wiring going up and leading to the other pot lights, which are these. All right. You guys
I
all
guess,
want to unmute? Any questions?
yes, I just wanted to make the comment because I've worked with fairy lights quite a bit, that when you are doing this kind of wiring and you want to cut off the extra bulbs, that the bulbs that you cut off at the end are the furthest ones away from your power source. Because if you
That's what
cut
I'm,
them,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, just
So
wanted to make
that's
sure.
why my directions say you start with the lights closest to the battery and you move out from the battery source, okay? And you're going to use up the 16 bulbs that are closest to your battery. And you're going to have some lights left over and you can, as I said, look at Liz West's talk about how to use those. But yes, do not cut anything that you cut away from your battery source is never going to be electrified unless you do some soldering and wiring and shrink wrap, which I don't want to teach you because I've only done it a few times.
I have a question about the wood gouge.
Yep.
Did you say they come in 4 or 6 millimeter?
They come in many sizes, but
Ah,
you want a small one. You just want to make a shallow trough for your wire and your bulb, and you can see they're very small. So that's why I'm suggesting the smallest one. They go up to, yes, many millimeters probably. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, they're carving tools and they go
Okay.
very high, but I've seen a 4 and a 6 at Lee Valley and on Amazon. I don't
Okay.
think you'd find any use for any other size.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I had an idea. I was typing, but I'll tell you. What I was going to do was inside my wooden room box was glue some molding on the two sides in the back, about half an inch away from the ceiling. Get all the pot lights put in my piece of foam core and just slide it in there. And then leave the the longer end where the battery pack is to run along the side and just out the side, and I can glue it on the side of my room box.
Yes, I think putting the battery pack on the outside of your room box is fine. I don't quite understand what the wood trim is going to do. Is it going to hide it in some way?
Well, I'm putting it, I had to go water, I'm still watering grass. I had to go water my grass. You were doing a foam core room box?
I was, yeah.
Okay, well, I
I
have
realize people do wood too.
mine is wooden, so all I want to do is slide the piece of foam core inside the room box about a half an inch down from the ceiling. So I'm going to glue the molding around first. And
Uh,
then when all the pot lights are in, I'm just going to slide my foam core in there and leave the end long enough I can put it around. Hey, the wire's small enough I could put it all the way around the side into the back of my box, the power switch.
Yes, and although you're only going to use eight, 16 bulbs, which is,
Yeah,
you can see how long these are. You've got a
yeah,
lot of light, and you can consider the the lights and the wire closest to the battery pack as extra cord,
right.
for your battery pack.
Right,
that's what you're gonna use. Don't try
exactly.
to get those first two lights right up close to a pot light because it's just too difficult. You're gonna
Right.
use some of your fairy light as cord.
Then
If
shouldn't you just black out the light so it doesn't shine?
Yeah,
um you could, but I'm anticipating that that part will be in an area that it won't be shown because I'll put my real pot lights down through the ceiling and I'll leave the cart part that's just being cored up on top. And then I'm going to cover the whole top with a piece of cardstock, which is similar to uh, um,
Mm.
Sunny's idea of using foam core. As she's creating a false
yeah, it's false
bottom
ceiling.
False
Yeah,
first.
ceiling. Yeah, false
Yeah,
ceiling.
I'm gonna create a false ceiling, a false roof after
right.
because it's easier for me to.
Yeah, pretty simple to do a really nice job of lighting, isn't it?
Well, the advantage is if you want to light something, this is so much cheaper. I mean,
Mm.
and now I do remind you that these are battery operated lights, and you have to um, change those batteries out, and those little I can tell you what they are, but they're on your battery. You can see what they are as well. But they're the common ones that are out there, and uh, my granddaughter sometimes forgets to turn her fairy lights off, and they run for about 3 days solid. So um, uh, better
And
remember to
Lucy,
turn it
they're
off.
they're CR 2032 batteries,
Yep,
and you could get them at the dollar store even. I think you
yep,
get four in a package for $1.25 at Dollarama. So they're really cheap and you can buy them anywhere.
yep. You can get them at Shoppers, Staples, almost anywhere.
Costco has a 12 pack on for, I think, 10.99 or something of the 2032s.
That's a
Wow.
pretty good deal. I don't know what their shelf life is if you don't use them up. Um,
I built a dollhouse inside of a clock, and I used fairy lights to do on the tree that are really similar to the ones that you have, Lucille.
mhm.
And the little switch takes two CR 2032 batteries, and I accidentally left it on. And it burned, not brightly, but it did burn for 2 full weeks before the batteries died
Mhm.
Wow.
on that little
Wow.
tree.
The
So
best,
I got your fairy lights at Amazon, same place I got my granddaughter's, and I'm gonna raid some first for if I'm running low for kits. Um, so um, yeah, so these are the ones I got on Amazon, and I got the grommets there as well. But the difficulty is you do have to buy these in packs of 25.
Ah,
So that's why I could do it for you as a kit. But for me to build to get enough to install in a dollhouse, the problem is, or in a room box, is the volume that I have to buy.
mm.
So,
I was able to find some on Amazon where you could get just 10 in a pack.
oh, that's a good deal.
Yeah, because that's what I
Yeah.
bought for myself for another project I was working on. And the 10 it allowed me to use two for one room and two for another. And I've still got half a dozen left for myself.
Yeah. So that's a good deal.
Yeah.
That's
What about the fairy lights that they have at Dollarama?
They come in the big battery packs that have the two AA batteries. Now
Mm.
you can, if you know how to do your electrical wiring, you can take that, disconnect it from that battery pack and put a coin battery pack on, but you have to know how to do the fiddling with the wires.
and you have to buy a coin battery pack
Yeah.
because I suppose in theory you could just tape them to the outside of the coin cell battery, but most people don't do that kind of thing.
Lucille, the batteries at Costco are Duracell, and they're listed as being best before August 2034.
That's pretty
Wow.
good.
Oh, wow.
That's quite a shelf life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're better quality than the Dollarama ones.
Sonny, I think you're muted.
Well,
Who's
I maybe
muted?
have got my box in front of my face.
Oh,
Oh,
maybe. Yeah.
just a
I
minute.
can't hear you.
It's got, oh, just a minute.
You're not muted, Sonny.
I
No, you're
know, but
not now.
there was a green light flashing. I put my volume up. Okay. Back one of our club workshops.
Oh,
We can't hear
Sonny,
you.
when you move away from your monitor at all, we can't hear you, and we want to.
Okay, so we had a workshop a few years ago that Tita did with a picture frame on the front of the box.
Hmm.
We saw one at the show last year.
Can you hold it up higher? Yeah.
So maybe I should take the front up. So my coin battery, it has a slot. You have to turn it. I don't know where we got those from. Whoops. Okay, come to mama. Let me get this on. Gently. Okay. And I just tape mine. Oops. Oh, shoot. Sorry, let me get organized. Okay. Oh, you can't. Right. You can't even tell the wires are just attached to the ceiling, can you?
No, no. It's
All
too
I
bright.
did was I used needle and thread and I just looped it around the wire. They're just on the ceiling.
Huh.
And they work perfectly.
Yeah.
I also comment that you can buy strips of LED lights again at Lee Valley. They're large. They're meant to go under kitchen cabinets and things like that. But they go very well under the upper lid of a 1/12 room box.
Hmm.
And I've seen miniatures do that as well.
Yeah, I've used those in 3 or 4 of my room boxes.
There's lots of questions in the chat, guys. I'm going to go here and read now.
Lucille, that was a good workshop. But I'm
Excellent.
kind of
So-
slow right now, so I'm gonna go.
Okay, I just wanted to mention that if anybody wanted, I only did pot lights, but if anybody did have an interest in doing a simple ceiling fixture, you would have to have a standard dollhouse light bulb, but I have a ton of beads that would make a nice simple flower shade over
Hey,
it.
I've got a question. Does anybody have any trick that will make those lights hang straight? Because even in good ones, you see them and they're always sort of off at a slant because it's a wire. Yeah.
Well, I had that concern. I I was talking with Bindles. You guys remember Bindles? We bought in some findings from them before. They
Yeah.
sell metal findings, and they do said sell chandelier kits and chandeliers. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was looking at one of her chandeliers. It's a long story, I'm sorry. And I saw that part of it would make a nice quarter scale chandelier. So I bought those pieces and I haven't put them together yet. But she encouraged me to do it. She thought it was a good idea. Anyway, the point is, I got a long metal tubing from her to
Oh,
hang it from that the wire will
that's
thread
where you
to.
put the wire. Oh,
Yes.
okay. Okay, because it really, I don't know whether I'm just being nitpicky, but I look at these beautiful room boxes and there's the light hanging off at a wind blowing on it.
The other person to ask would be Honey because if she sells them professionally.
You're right.
Yeah, she's
There's
moving to
another-
Victoria, sadly.
Another thing you could use is a straw, and then if you paint it the color you want.
But when you're working in quarter scale, you would have to get either a tube of some kind that would be really fine though, wouldn't you?
Well, like those coffee stirrers are tiny straws.
Yeah.
And that
Oh.
would be something.
Oh,
The straws that come from the little kids' lunch boxes work out really well too.
oh, okay.
The
For
lunch
quarter scale?
Yep.
Sure,
They're-
and paint it the color
they're-
you want.
Yeah. Okay.
You could paint it gold if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I'm just going into my lighting stuff in my office here. I have copper pipes that are I got them at Hobby Wholesale, and you can cut them to any size you require.
That's
And
what
they
I got
come
from
in,
Bindles.
yeah. Do you have any handy that you could show them, or?
No, no, and to be
Okay.
honest, I mean, I ordered them in April, and they they finally came just as I left, and no, I haven't opened them.
Yeah, I'm just looking here. So for those of you that want to see what the 2032 batteries look like, that's what they look like.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's
Oh
a
yeah.
package of them.
Like a quarter.
And, yeah. And then, so here's some of the cell battery that I have. So my cell batteries that I got, they only hold one battery instead of two, but I'm not using them with fairy lights, right?
Well, this only holds one, I think.
Oh, does it? Oh, I
Yeah.
thought yours had two in it.
I haven't opened it.
It
To
should
be
be
honest.
one. It should be one.
Yeah. And then I also got the battery ones.
Mhm.
These are from Temu, and I only paid like, I think it was $4 that I got 10 of them.
Mm.
So, and they're really nice. They're easy to work with.
Yeah.
And I can't find, of course, I'll find it after this meeting is over, but it's Hobby Wholesale, and they're about 12 inches long, and they're like just like copper pipes, and they've got them in various thicknesses. So, I mean, you know how big a Bic pen is, the insert on a Bic pen that holds the ink?
Yep.
Mhm.
That's the smallest size.
Okay.
And that's at Hobby Wholesale?
They had it at Hobby Wholesale. That's where I purchased mine.
Don't,
So,
don't they carry those at the train hobby stores?
Yeah, I
They
think
should.
so. That's
Yeah.
where I've seen them.
Something
yeah.
else I used for my really small one was the shrink tubing. That you could buy.
Oh,
You buy the really, really small one. The one I have is like it's 1/8 of a width of an inch, and you just color it. And like Maureen was saying, you just color it when it paint it whatever you want. But I found that was worked just perfect to keep everything nice and
well,
straight. And
that's a good idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I just I'm running low on mine. I have to buy some more, but you can get them in different widths, and you can get some really small ones.
Yeah.
But
Okay, that's
Shrink
good,
tubing.
Camille.
What's that?
Camille, here, if you spotlight me, I'll show you guys shrink tubing.
Yeah, I'll show you how small
Oh,
some of mine are.
spotlight
Give me a
you.
sec.
Okay.
So,
I
so
wanted to ask Sue something here in a minute.
okay, so that's shrink tubing, but
Yeah.
do you see how flexible it is?
Yeah.
So it's not going to be like, and you can buy the copper pipes that are this big. So
Yeah.
with the copper, it's going to be more rigid.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
quite flexible.
So one type of light fixture that's really quite common and popular in real life and with dollhouses is the ones that are flush to the ceiling,
Yeah.
you know? And I've got several of those in quarter scale, and they're all 3D printed, Sue.
There's all kinds of stuff. Well, Saturday will show what I've been up to for the past month, but I have explored. I've made ironing boards, I've made hobby horses. There are light fixtures. I'll have a look and see if I can find a file and maybe print a few before Saturday.
Are you using or do you have access to any kind of graphics program to draw 3D programs?
I'm not technologically advanced enough yet.
Hey, girl, you did pretty good with that 3D printer.
I mean, the fact that I've been able to do what I've done since January. I'm really like, yeah, you.
Yeah, you.
So I am contemplating come the fall, if I can find a program, I would like to learn how to design and put it into STL files because
Well,
there are so many things I want. For example, one granddaughter is into calico critters. Well, they happen to be about 3.5, 4 inches tall, so even smaller than almost half scale. And yeah, and then she's also got an 18-inch doll. And she said, Nanny, can you make me a table and a chair for me? Well, Nanny would love to, but I can't find a file for it. So I'm thinking, okay, now it's time for me to do the next step up and see if I can actually
Scale up.
produce things and learn how to do it.
So a couple years ago, I did go to a couple of classes on 3D printing programs.
Okay.
And one of them went way over my head. And the other one, it was just intuitive. It just, you just moved the line and it moved. And yeah, there are some programs out there that I think older people like us
Yes, like
could
me. Yeah.
possibly learn.
I'll be 67 my birthday and proud of it. So now RepRap, the company that I buy all my printer and my filament through, they are talking about doing some courses. And I'm hoping, because they're very good about just casually showing me things when I go in and ask a, excuse me, I'm dumb question. And they're, oh, here, I'll show you. So I'm kind of hoping they might be able to do a course for people who want to do things like me.
I think a course. I bet you there's lots of people in this city who would want to take courses.
Oh,
My
yeah.
son is interested in remoting, and he's the technical guy in the family, remoting into my 3D printer and making himself remote control plane parts and
Wow.
drone parts.
Cool. Yeah, I've really come really far with what I've been able to print. I have to say, I'm very pleased. And hopefully Saturday everybody else will enjoy it too.
I'm pretty sure the public library has classes on 3D printing.
I bet you they do.
They offer a 3-hour course on how to use their printer. So they don't get into, they'll teach you the nuances of, okay, you bring in your flash drive with your STL file on it, you put it in our machine and you print your item. That's their program. It took me a long time asking questions at RepRap and stuff like that to figure out that I could take things like, I bought a file for a rabbit dish, which had 3 bunnies and a rabbit and a bowl. The 3 bunnies were kind of hanging over the over the bowl. And when I downloaded the STL file, I thought it was for miniatures. It wasn't. It was for full size. So then I sort of figured out that through that, I could reduce it and take it down to miniature. So by the time I was finished, the bowl itself was the size of a loonie. And the 3 little bunnies were still overhanging the bowl. Yeah. So, and then there's cloning and there's all kinds of things you can manipulate within the programs.
Well, I do have a program on my laptop for 3D printing, and it was the one that I took bye, Maureen. That was the one that I took a class in, and it did seem very intuitive. I just need somebody to motivate me, I guess.
I like the Creality only because it's the only one I'm familiar with. And I believe you've got resin and I've got filament. So I've
got resin,
not even close to resin yet. Although after having this much success, I'm kind of willing to dabble in it because my oldest granddaughter wants a Dungeons and Dragons room with all the little tiny critters.
Mm.
But I will see
My
if I
my
can,
granddaughter would probably have me printing Lego,
oh
illegal
yeah,
Lego.
I will see if I can find some lamp fixtures though, Lucille, and see if I can print off a few.
Well, you've motivated me. I will look into finding 3D educational programs.
Sounds good. Let me know what you find.
Any other questions about the lighting?
No.
So, my next step is to finalize all the orders, and I will be bringing them on Saturday to the mini day out for those of you who are going to pick them up. Anybody who doesn't, I really hate to mail something that costs $2. I don't know. So anybody on here who can't come to the mini day out, if you've got somebody who can pick it up for you, just let me know.
I'm on the south side, so if anybody's needing picking up and dropping off, I'm more than willing on the south side, no problem.
Well, I'm on the south side too.
Oh, well, there you go.
Same here.
Yeah.
Side, or if anybody needs it picked up in the northeast or northwest, I go everywhere.
Who was that?
That was Inger.
Inger. Oh yeah. Oh yes, Inger.
Yeah, because I live in the northeast, so I've been to Pat's, but I also walk at West Ed Mall every weekend, so I'm happy to head in that direction as well.